The screech of brakes tore through the night like a lover's final scream, hurling Myla Harrington forward into the dim glow of the Pullman car's lantern. Her heart slammed against her ribs as the world tilted, porcelain teacup shattering on the Persian rug, her mother's pearl necklace snapping free to scatter like fallen stars across the floor. In that frozen instant, as the train lurched to a violent halt on the endless Nebraska prairie, Myla's eyes locked not on the chaos outside, but on the stranger who'd claimed her reserved seat, a woman with dust-streaked boots and eyes like storm clouds over the high plains who whispered, "Hold on," as if she'd pulled the emergency cord herself. Myla gasped, her manicured fingers clutching the armrest, the scent of rain-soaked earth invading the car's polished mahogany confines. Outside, thunder cracked the sky open, but inside, the air thickened with something far more electric, the unyielding stare of this intruder, who hadn't flinched, hadn't apologized, just braced her calloused palms against the opposite seat like roots digging into stubborn soil. You're in my place," Myla stammered, her voice a fragile thread in the sudden silence, but the words dissolved as the conductor's frantic shouts echoed from the corridor. "Everyone stay seated. Bridge out ahead. Flash flood." The ranch girl, Lena, as Myla would later learn, though in that heartbeat she was simply the thief of her solitude, didn't move. Her hat tipped low over sun-faded blonde hair, framing a face etched by wind and worry lines too deep for 28 years. She was all lean muscle and quiet defiance, the kind that came from wrangling cattle under relentless suns, not sipping champagne at galas in Manhattan. Myla, heiress to Harrington Steel, had boarded this cross-country rail in Chicago 2 days prior, fleeing the suffocating web of her family's empire, a merger that would chain her to a loveless boardroom marriage, a legacy that demanded she bury her secrets deeper than the mines her grandfather had stripped bare. This seat, window-side in the private compartment her father had booked with a signature and a blank check, was her last bastion of escape, until Lena had slipped in at the Omaha stop, ticket stub crumpled in her fist, murmuring something about a family emergency pulling her west to the ranch she'd lost to debt. Now, with the train immobilized on tracks swallowed by rising waters, the world outside blurred into a watercolor of fury, sheets of rain lashing the glass, lightning etching the silhouettes of twisted cottonwoods. Passengers stirred in the adjacent cars, their murmurs swelling like a distant hive, but here, in this velvet womb of interrupted luxury, time suspended between them. Myla's pulse thundered, not just from the jolt, but from the proximity, the faint trace of sage and saddle leather wafting from Lena's flannel shirt, a scent that clawed at memories Myla had long suppressed, stolen glances at women's college mixers, the ache of a debutante ball where no hand felt right. "What the hell happened?" Myla demanded, straightening her rumpled linen skirt, her voice sharper than she intended, laced with the entitlement of someone who'd never truly touched the ground. Lena shifted, her boots scuffing the rug, and for the first time, a ghost of a smile cracked her stoic mask. "Flash flood, ma'am. Washed out the trestle up ahead. Seen it before. Rains like God's wrath on the Platte River." Her drawl was pure sandhills, vowels stretched like barbed wire fences, and it wrapped around Myla like a lasso, tugging at something wild and uncharted within her.
"Ma'am."
The word stung, reducing Myla to the porcelain doll her society demanded, but Lena's eyes, hazel flecked with gold, held no deference, only a raw curiosity that mirrored Myla's own buried hunger. The conductor burst and then, lantern swinging like a pendulum of doom, his face slick with sweat. "Folks, we're stranded. Water's rising fast. Evac's gonna take hours, maybe till dawn. Stay put. Help's comin' from North Platte." He glanced at the mess of pearls and china, then at the two women, and something in his hurried assessment made Myla's cheeks burn. As if he could sense the invisible current crackling between them, the unspoken trespass that went beyond a stolen seat.
"Hours."
The word hung heavy as Lena pulled a worn thermos from her knapsack, unscrewing the lid to release the steam of black coffee, strong enough to wake the dead. Here, she offered, holding it out without ceremony, her fingers brushing Mila's in the exchange, a spark that jolted hotter than the lightning outside. Mila hesitated, her upbringing screaming warnings about strangers, about women who looked at you like they could see through the silk to the scars beneath. But the adrenaline still sang in her veins, and she took a sip, the bitterness grounding her like an anchor in the storm. "I'm Mila," she said finally, the name slipping out softer than intended, as if confessing a sin. "Lena." A nod, nothing more, but her gaze lingered on Mila's lips, stained faintly from the coffee, and in that shared silence, the rain's rhythm became their pulse, steady, insistent, alive with possibility. As the night deepened, the other passengers settled into uneasy truces, card games in the dining car, whispers of delays rippling like aftershocks. But Mila and Lena remained in their compartment, the door half-latched against prying eyes, the space shrinking with every shared breath. Lena unpacked her knapsack methodically, jerky wrapped in wax paper, a dog-eared paperback of Willa Cather's tales of pioneer women loving fiercely against the odds. "My ma's favorite," she explained, sliding it across the seat. "Said the planes don't break you. They just show you what's bendin'." Mila traced the cover's faded gilt letters, her throat tight. "I ran away once, you know, from a summer camp in the Berkshires. Climbed the fence at midnight because the girl in the bunk next to mine. She made me feel things I wasn't supposed to." The admission tumbled out, raw and unfiltered, fueled by the coffee's warmth and the flood's isolation. She'd never voiced it aloud, not to therapists paid in trust funds, not to the mirror in her penthouse bathroom. But here, with this stranger whose very presence challenged the polished cage of Mila's life, the words freed themselves like birds from a snare. Lena's hand stilled on the jerky she'd been tearing, her eyes darkening with recognition. "I know that fence. Built mine out of silence after my first kiss, under the stars at a rodeo, with a girl who smelled like popcorn and regret. She left town come mornin', and I learned to keep my head down, work the land till it worked me back." Her voice cracked on the last word, a fissure in the ranch-hardened armor, and Mila felt it echo in her own chest, the universal ache of loving in shadows, of wanting what the world deemed deviance. The rain eased to a patter, but the waters rose, lapping at the tracks like greedy fingers. Through the window, Mila glimpsed the chaos, a derailment averted by mere providence, but the bridge ahead a twisted skeleton in the murk. "What if we don't make it through?" Mila whispered, not of the flood, but of the chasm between them, the heiress and the outcast, city silk against prairie grit. Lena leaned closer, her breath mingling with Mila's in the lantern's flicker. "Then we rewrite the map right here." And with that, she closed the distance, her lips brushing Mila's in a kiss that tasted of coffee and courage, igniting the dry tinder of years unspoken. Dawn crept in hesitant fingers of pink, painting the flooded plains in hues of bruised lavender and gold. The train whistle pierced the mist like a hesitant lover's call, signaling the crew's arrival with flatboats and ropes from the relief train. Passengers stirred, grumbling about schedules shattered, fortunes delayed, but Mila lingered in the compartment, her body humming from the night's revelations. Lena's touch had been a revelation, fierce yet tender, hands mapping Mila's skin like uncharted ranchland, drawing out moans that echoed the storm's fury. They talked until words failed, bodies speaking the truths their tongues couldn't, the loneliness of hidden desires, the weight of family expectations that crushed like unrelenting drought. Now, as the door swung open to the bustle of evacuation, Mila smoothed her disheveled blouse, pearls rest-strung hastily around her neck like a noose reclaimed. Lena stood by the window, hat pulled low, packing her knapsack with the efficiency of someone who'd learned to leave without lingering. "Omaha's the next stop once they clear us," Lena said, her voice steady but laced with the gravel of goodbye. "You headin' west too? Or just runnin'?" Mila's heart clenched, the compartment suddenly vast and empty without the press of shared warmth. West, to the Harrington compound in San Francisco, where boardrooms awaited and a fiancé she'd never loved loomed like a shadow merger. Or east, back to the Gilded Trap. But neither direction felt right anymore, not after Lena's fingers had traced constellations on her collarbone, whispering stories of wide-open skies where love didn't need permission. "I'm not sure," Mila admitted, stepping closer, the air between them charged anew. "But leaving you here feels like derailing all over again." Lena turned, her hazel eyes catching the dawn's light, softening the lines of exhaustion. "Life's full of washed-out bridges, Mila. You build and back stronger, or you ford the river swimmin'." She reached out, tucking a stray auburn curl behind Mila's ear, the gesture intimate, possessive, a claim staked in the quiet hours. Outside, the crew shouted orders, flatboats bobbing in the churn, but in this stolen moment, the world narrowed to the space where their foreheads touched. The evacuation was chaos wrapped in courtesy, gentlemen in derbies handing ladies into boats, conductors barking assurances of complimentary telegrams home. Mila and Lena were ferried across the floodwaters together, knees brushing in the cramped skiff, the ranch girl's steady grip on the oar lifeline amid the swirl. On the far bank, amid muddied hems and sodden luggage, relief workers distributed blankets and hot coffee from dented urns. Mila wrapped herself in wool that smelled of mothballs, but it was Lena's arm around her shoulders that warded off the chill, a shield against the curious glances of fellow passengers who whispered of the scandalous delay. Word spread like prairie fire. The train's abrupt halt had saved lives, the flood cresting just yards from the vulnerable trestle. Newspapers would hail it a miracle, but for Mila, the true marvel unfolded in the afterglow, the way Lena's laugh bubbled up when a cowhand from the relief crew mistook her for one of the passengers, offering a gallant tip of his hat. "Darlin', I wrangle steers meaner than this river," Lena quipped, her drawl drawing Mila's gaze like a moth to flame. In that banter, Mila glimpsed the life Lena led, solitary rides at dawn, the camaraderie of ranch hands who shared beers but never secrets, the quiet nights staring at stars that judged no one. As the replacement train chugged in from the west, sleek and impatient, belching steam like an industrial beast, their idol fractured. Mila's private compartment awaited, reserved anew with her family's influence, a velvet exile. Lena's ticket was second class, the rumble of crowded benches her domain. "This is where we part ways?" Mila asked, voice barely above the hiss of engines, her hand finding Lena's in the throng, fingers interlacing like vines reclaiming a fence. "Not if you don't want it to." Lena's words were a challenge, her thumb tracing circles on Mila's palm, igniting embers. "My ranch is 2 days out near Alliance. Debt's choking it, but it's mine, free as the wind.
Come see it.
Or don't. But know this, I ain't one for half measures, Mila Harrington." The boarding call rang out, a siren's wail, and Mila's world tilted once more. Behind her lay the Empire, steel mills belching smoke over Lake Michigan, a father whose love was measured in quarterly reports, a mother whose whispers urged conformity like a prayer. Ahead, the unknown, Lena's world of red dirt and relentless horizons, where a woman's touch could be as natural as sunrise, unmarred by scandal sheets. With a breath that tasted of river mist and resolve, Mila squeezed Lena's hand. "Show me the stars you chase." The train lurched forward, tracks reclaimed from the flood's grasp, carrying them west into the heartland's embrace. In the compartment, door ajar to the rhythm of wheels on rails, Mila and Lena shed the barriers of class and caution. Lena's stories unfolded like a well-worn map. The ranch inherited from a grandmother who'd outshot claimed jumpers, the brother lost to the bottle, the lover who'd fled for city lights, leaving Lena to mend fences alone. Mila listened, her head on Lena's lap, fingers toying with the silver buckle of a belt worn smooth by years of labor. "I was always the pretty package," Mila confessed, voice muffled against flannel. "Unwrapped for investors, not lovers. My fiancé, God, he's a merger, not a man. Touches me like he's signing a contract. Lena's hand stilled in Mila's hair, anger flashing in her eyes like distant lightning. You deserve more than signatures, darling. You deserve someone who sees the fire in you, not the fuse. She tilted Mila's chin up, their kiss deepening the bond forged in crisis, a promise etched in the sway of the car, bodies moving in harmony with the land rushing by. By evening, as the train sliced through golden wheat fields under a sky bruised purple, doubt crept in like evening shadows. A telegram arrived, crisp and commanding. Delay unacceptable. Return immediately. Merger critical. Father. Mila read it by lantern light, the words blurring through unshed tears. Lena watched from the shadows, her silence a canvas for Mila's turmoil. He owns the tracks we ride, Mila whispered, crumpling the paper. But not this. She pulled Lena close, their embrace a rebellion, lips fierce against the encroaching night. The days blurred into a fever dream of stolen intimacies, dawn coffee shared over maps of forgotten trails, midnight confessions under the car's dome light, where Lena's fingers coaxed symphonies from Mila's skin. They spoke of dreams deferred, Mila's sketches of sustainable steel, hidden in sketchbooks lest they challenge the family's ruthless vein, Lena's vision of a ranch cooperative for women like them, safe havens amid the isolation. In each other's arms, the impossible felt tangible, a horizon they could outrun together. But the merger loomed, a specter gaining form as the train neared Denver. Whispers from the dining car reached them. Harrington Steele's bold play for a rival line, sealing it with Mila's hand in marriage to the competitor's son. Society pages would trumpet the union, burying any hint of her eccentric detour. Panic clawed at Mila's throat during a layover in Cheyenne, where coaling crews eyed them curiously as they walked the platform, hands brushing under the guise of shared cigarettes. What if they find out? Mila breathed, smoke curling like secrets. The papers, the family, they'd crucify us. Lena pulled her into the shadow of a boxcar, rain from an earlier squall still puddling the gravel. Let 'em try. I've faced worse than ink, droughts that withered everything but the fight in me. Her kiss was salt and smoke, a vow against the gathering storm. Yet as the train pulled out, Mila felt the pull of two worlds tearing her seam by seam. Alliance dawned under a relentless sun, the ranch emerging like a mirage, weathered barns sagging under debt's weight, corrals empty save for a lone mare nickering welcome. Lena's truck rattled up the drive, dust devils dancing in their wake, and Mila stepped out into earth that gripped her heels like an embrace. Home, Lena said simply, unloading Mila's valise beside a porch swing creaking in the breeze. But home was a battlefield, foreclosure notices tacked to the kitchen wall, the bank man's letter demanding sale by month's end. Mila's arrival was no fairy tale intrusion. She rolled up her sleeves, city hands blistering as she mucked stalls and rest-strung barbed wire under Lena's patient tutelage. The ranch hands, two weathered souls, Jed and Rosa, who shared knowing nods but asked no questions, welcomed her with stew simmered slow and stories spun tall. In the evenings, as cicadas chorused the sunset, Mila and Lena would ride out to the north pasture, the mare's gate lulling them into confessions. I called off the engagement, Mila admitted one dusk, wind whipping her hair free. Telegram from the train. Father's furious, threatens disinheritance. But for the first time, I'm not afraid. Lena reined in, dismounting to pull Mila down into wild grasses. Pride like that's worth more than steel mills. Their lovemaking was Earth's own rhythm, fierce, unyielding, bodies slick with sweat and starlight. Here, away from prying eyes, love bloomed unchecked. Lazy mornings tangled in sheets smelling of hay, whispered plans for the ranch's revival, Mila's designs adapting solar tech to irrigation, Lena's grit turning vision to soil. Yet shadows lengthened. Word reached the ranch via a nosy postman, Harrington's private eye-sniffing trails, society whispers of the wayward heiress consorting with frontier folk. One night, as thunder rumbled distant threats, a sleek black sedan crunched gravel in the drive. Out stepped Victor Langston, Mila's erstwhile fiancé, flanked by a stone-faced lawyer, his smile all teeth and contracts. "Darling," he drawled, silk tie askew from the long hall, "this little adventure ends now. Your father's offered a settlement, generous if you return quietly." Mila stood on the porch, Lena a silent sentinel at her side, rifle propped casual against the rail. The air crackled with the storm's approach, mirroring the tempest in Mila's chest. "Generous?" she echoed, voice steel-forged. "Like the dowry you negotiated over brandy?" "No, Victor. I'm done being currency." His eyes flicked to Lena, disdain curling his lip. "Slumming with ranch trash? Your family will bury this scandal, but it'll ruin you." Lena stepped forward, her presence a wall of quiet fury. "She ain't slumming. She's home." The words hung, a gauntlet thrown, and Victor's laugh was brittle glass. But as rain lashed down, turning the drive to mire, he retreated, tires spinning futile fury into the night. The showdown galvanized them. Mila wired her own counteroffer. Shares in Harrington Steel redirected to green initiatives, her stake in exchange for freedom. Lena rallied the hands, bartering horseflesh and labor for extension on the note. Together, they transformed the ranch, solar pumps humming where windmills once groaned, women's co-op seeds sprouting in reclaimed fields. Love, once a derailment, became the engine. Nights of shared laughter over Rose's tamales, days of sweat-soaked triumphs, bodies entwined in affirmation of lives reclaimed. Months later, as harvest moon rose fat and forgiving, the bank man returned, not with eviction, but a handshake. The ranch endured, a beacon for wanderers like them. Mila and Lena stood on the porch, arms entwined, watching fireflies dance over the Platte's gentler flow. "We stopped cold once," Mila murmured, head on Lena's shoulder, "and found our way." Lena kissed her temple, voice a prairie whisper, "And kept on rollin', darlin'. Hearts don't derail easy when they're true." In the quiet that followed, under stars vast as possibility, they built not just a home, but a legacy of love unapologetic, fierce as floods, enduring as the land itself.